Well, good evening to the IdahoSports.com 2022 State Boys Basketball Tournament Preview Extravaganza. We'll be coming to you live for the next 90 minutes or so here on IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and also our Twitter account. And so we're going to be here shuffling the different play-by-play broadcasters in and out throughout the lineup tonight. We always want to start off on our strongest foot. With that leadoff tonight, I'm Brandon Baney, but also he's joined by Wayne Disbuback. He's going to be broadcasting the 5A Boys State Basketball Tournament for us on IdahoSports.com. Wayne, welcome in. How you doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I'm excited. I can't believe, Brandon, that we're at the end of the season. I mean, it just kind of went by so quickly. We say that every year, but this year was kind of a fun year. We did a lot of 5A games, even had an opportunity to do teams like Lake City and Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene as they came down here for a challenge that they had against some SIC teams. So it was fun to do. It was a fun season. And now everybody's kind of gotten their ducks in a row, and now it's up to 3 days. Who can do the best of these 3 days at the Fort Idaho Center?
Absolutely. And we already have our first live comment of the night from Sam Buffington. He's one of the biggest IdahoSports.com fans out there. He lives up north. Sam says, hello, everyone, including Mr. Brandon Bracket Baney. That's right, because this time of year, Wayne, I love breaking out those brackets and breaking them down. So
I tell you what, Sam just loves that alliteration right there, huh? Brandon Bracket Baney, you got to love it.
That's right. That's my unofficial nickname this time of year. My wife jokes that it's Big Head Baney, but
it could be, yeah. The rest of the year it is, I'm sure. But for our purposes, we like it Bracket Baney.
Definitely. So if you want to be like Sam and leave a comment, if you want to ask us a question about the 5A or any classification, or you want a breakdown of a certain player, or you want to give a shout out to your favorite player, or favorite team, or favorite broadcaster, leave us a comment and we'll throw it up on the screen. For example, Brad wants to know, Pokey will win 4A. What are your thoughts? The 4A preview coming up in about 15 minutes. We're going to have Scott Burton on to break down that 4A bracket. But Wayne, real quick, you did see Pocatello this year against Lake City, actually, in the championship of that Hawaii Classic, right?
Yeah, they hung tough with Lake City. I mean, the problem was they only had one player playing that night, and so they needed to get everybody involved because Lake City is, as we will talk about, just a consummate team. And, but Pocatello is good. But you know what? Don't count out some of those other guys there. That's going to be interesting. But I'll let Scott Burton take care of that stuff.
Yeah, that's coming up. We're going to spend about 15 minutes on each classification. Sam says, I love it a lot. The alliteration, I think, Brandon Bracket Baney. Thanks, Wayne. So there you go. Hey, yeah, leave us your comments. We're talking 5A basketball here for the next 15 minutes on IdahoSports.com. Hey, while you're hanging out and you're watching the live video, go ahead and hit that like button, because what's going to happen is there's some people that aren't with us live tonight. They're watching, I don't know, Boise State basketball, or the president is delivering a pretty important speech tonight, I guess, State of the Union address. And so the next day, tomorrow, or even Thursday, when people are coming back to watch the replay, it's going to be easier for them to find in the social media algorithm if we get as many likes and shares as possible. So go ahead and hit that like button while you're hanging out with us tonight. And if you have time to, maybe share it amongst your family and friends, and that'll really help us out. It's a big help for sure. Well, let's dive right into this bracket, Wayne. Let's pull it up and put it up on the big screen here. This is the first time we're having the bracket seeded according to Max Prep's ranking.
Yep.
So Lake City, just like on the girls' side, number 1 seed coming in. Now the Lake City girls, it didn't pay off for them as they fell in the semifinals. But what do you see? What stands out to you in this bracket?
Really, I think the thing that stands out to me is that Madison Meridian showdown. I think that's big. And then the Eagle Rigby showdown. That's one that I'm really looking forward to. 4 against 5 should be interesting. The thing that really intrigues me is that Centennial's a 14-10 team, Brandon. They're taking on the number 1 seed. Centennial's the number 8 seed. I have seen Centennial when they look absolutely fantastic, and I've seen them when they look absolutely terrible. They are a team that you don't know what you're going to get. They depend on the threes, and if they hit the threes, they've been hitting about 36% on the year. But if they hit them, they're going to be in that game. But I think Lake City is just too tough for Centennial to get it going. One versus 8, it's not going to be a fair game.
Yeah, you mentioned Centennial. I mean, it's been a while. We were talking before we hopped on the air. They played Mountain View twice. They won big. They lost big. They dominated Meridian at districts to punch their ticket to state. Meridian turns around and barely gets by Timberline, and then Meridian blows out Coeur d'Alene in the play-in game. So Meridian comes in as the number 6 seed.
Yep.
So I really think these bottom 3, Centennial at 8, Mountain View at 7, Meridian at 6. It's really hard to gauge how good those teams are because the SIC was very tough this year.
Well, it was so up and down. You never knew what was going to happen on a given night because you had those, like you said, big blowouts going both ways, back and forth. I mean, Owyhee, even the number 2 seed, they would blow somebody out. They blew Mountain View out. It was a running clock in the fourth quarter over at Owyhee, and then they turned around and played at Mountain View. It was a 10-point Owyhee win, but it went right down to the buzzer. So you never know what you're going to get. I've seen Lake City play. I like them. I mean, Colton Mitchell, Blake Buchanan, those guys really, really solid. And those are just the tip of the iceberg. Lake City is a lot like Owyhee in that they are a team. They've got a lot of guys. They could, 1 or 2 guys will stand out for you, but man, they've got they go 8, 9 deep.
Yeah, Owyhee and Eagle had that epic SIC championship game. They were already locked into their seeding, so it didn't matter in terms of the bracket, but bragging rights for sure. We've got a comment here from Nate Bearway, and he says, better fan base, Owyhee or Madison? And what a crazy atmosphere that would be Friday night in the Idaho Center if they were to meet up in that semifinal. So you've got Madison, who historically has always been a rabid, passionate fan base. They always travel well from Rexburg, and Owyhee is kind of the new kid on the block. What do you think?
Owyhee brand is going crazy. I cannot speak to Madison. I've not seen Madison. Madison and Rigby, the 2 teams I haven't seen play this year. But I'll tell you what, last Friday night in the district championship game, the Stormtroopers, that's what they call themselves, the student body, they stand up the whole time. At Meridian Gymnasium, they filled up the top half all the way halfway across the top. And there wasn't a place to go. They were jumping up and down all the time. They were unbelievable. The Stormtroopers are going to be hard to match, but if anybody can do it, I think the Madison Bobcats can.
Yeah, well, Cool Cat here with a comment. Madison is a crazy fan base. I have to second that comment, Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're passionate for sure.
Well, obviously we're already getting from them. We haven't heard from Owyhee yet, but we've heard from those guys. So yeah, they're right now, I guess based on that, they're crazier than Owyhee.
Stormtroopers, where are you at? Where are the Owyhee peeps at? Here we go. Let's talk about now. Cool Cat wants to break down the Madison team. She says Madison has great guards, but not much size from what I have seen, and that is something that Owyhee has in spades, right?
Yeah, they do. I mean, Logan Crane, 13 points a game. You start with him for Madison. I mean, Madison's 18-5 on the year. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see what they can do. They're used to being there. I mean, I know it's not the same kids, but they've been at the state for 5 of the last 6 years. So this is a team that's perennial state ready. So they know what's expected. They know what level they need to play at. They come in there. Owyhee was 21-3, the number 2 seed. They were 7-1 against the 5A qualifiers, state qualifiers, 7-1. That's how good they are, and they're getting better. The other night when they played Eagle, remember way back in December 21st, they lost to Eagle in 4 overtimes, 80-76. Well, then Friday night, 71-49. They had something to prove, and they proved it immediately. And you would think it would come from Leon Campbell, who's averaging 18, or maybe Jack Payne. Jack Payne averaging 11.7 points per game. But no, it came from Titus Bailey, who hit 5 3-pointers in the first period. And he did not. He was 5 for 5 in the first period. It was like, are you kidding me?
Titus Bailey, the transfer from Capital. I know he was sorely missed across town at Capital this year. No doubt about it. He's a dynamic player. Madison, Wayne, you talked about new players. Really, Logan Crane is the only returning starter from last year. But not only that, new coach as well. Travis Schwab, who had done a great job leading that program. He got kicked up to an administrative position. And so Shane Humphreys, in his first year as the coach at Madison, picking up right where he left off.
Yeah, so you're saying we needed more Schwab than less Schwab, right?
That's right. Yeah, no doubt about that.
I'm sorry, sometimes I can't help myself. It just happens.
For sure. Now, Madison, I will say, Meridian is the defending 5A champs.
Yeah.
Jeff Sainer is still there. Great coach. They've got some of the key pieces back from last year, Ethan Pierce and Davis Thacker. They seem dangerous to me until somebody actually knocks them out. They could still make that run, I think.
They can. They got Austin Ramos. We don't talk much about him. He had a game-winning shot earlier in the year. But I mean, think about it. Meridian lost to Coeur d'Alene earlier in the year. Okay, game played at their gym in Meridian, and then had to go all the way up to Grangeville to play that game against Coeur d'Alene. I know Coeur d'Alene had to come down to Grangeville, but as I recall, I think it's a little further to go to Grangeville. But Meridian goes up there. Ethan Pierce has 19 points, comes up apart and gets the job done, and they win a playing game to make it here. And so after losing 8 players from last year, including Brody Roberry, the player of the year in Idaho, Meridian is back in the state playoffs, back with a chance. And as long as you're in the field, you have a chance to win that state championship. Are they going to do it? I don't think so, but I may be the only one outside of that Meridian bench that does.
Well, you know who else thinks that, Wayne? Allison Sessions. Madison could win it all for 5A. So we got lots of Madison fans in here tonight. Sam's back on with another question. Who is Centennial's main guy? I don't know anyone on Centennial, and that's a perfect time for us, Wayne, to transition into our players to watch for the 5A ranks. We picked one player from each team. And again, this is not an all-inclusive list. This is just a jumping off point. But we picked one player from each team to keep an eye on, including Centennial. So let's take a look at this. So we've got Tyler Shipp. He's kind of the big man for Centennial. I know they've got some good guards as well, and Caden Christensen and Kyle Shabbat, but he's the main guy. Colton Mitchell from Lake City, the tremendous point guard. Probably the best player up north, just a junior. Donovan Jones from Eagle, great forward. We talked about Logan Crane from Madison already, and Ethan Pierce from Meridian. Baylor Perrin is a great point guard from Mountain View. Jack Payne, the Boise High transfer, Colorado State University commit. He leads Hawaii. And then Carson Barber is a good big underneath for Rigby. This is a pretty good list.
Yeah, it's a pretty good list. I mean, you could sit there and say, hey, we forgot about Nate Ojukwu from Mountain View. This is a big kid, 6'7", really gets down there and makes a big difference. You say, how about Liam Campbell for Hawaii? You had Jack Payne down there because he's a senior. Liam Campbell averages 18 points a game. Tyler Shipp, 13 for Centennial. Sam asked, who's their big guy? Well, they don't really have a big guy because they all are kind of small guards. They shoot from the outside. They're a three-point team. All that kind of stuff. Colton Mitchell, you forget about Blake Buchanan. Don't forget about him. They're almost 14 points per game. Donovan Jones, you got Gage Jones. So you got another Jones there. So and Eagles, another one of those teams like Lake City and really Hawaii is a team. I mean, Eagle plays great as a team. The big question is, can they bounce back from that loss, 71-49 in the district championship, which was really not expected to Hawaii. So a lot of questions, a lot of things, and I agree. I think Madison's a dark horse there. I think Rigby's a dark horse. They've been there before. They know what they're doing. So I think this is a very interesting field, very interesting first round matchups, with the exception maybe of Lake City Centennial.
Yeah, let's take a look at that top half of the bracket again super quick. We didn't spend a ton of time on it, but Eagle and Rigby to me is the most intriguing opening round game, right? Eagle, you mentioned coming off that big loss to Hawaii. Rigby came in with less fanfare than usual in terms of preseason hype, but proved that they certainly belong here at state as well. This is going to be an interesting top half of the bracket. I think you could have Lake City against either Rigby and or Eagle, and that could be any of those three teams. I think could all advance to the title.
I agree. I've seen Eagle when they looked unbeatable, and I've seen Eagle when they got really rocked like they did last Friday night. But so if Rigby comes in, plays a tough game, I mean, I think that is the most intriguing game in the first round. The second most intriguing is that Madison Meridian game. I really, it's like everything else. A lot of teams sit there and they go, well, gosh, we like Hawaii and Mountain View. Okay, well, we've played each other so many times. Why do we have to meet in the state in the first round? But that's the way it is. And there's a lot of familiarity there. But Hawaii right now, 17-game win streak coming in, Brandon. These guys, 7-1, as I said, against 5A qualifiers. To me, the train is headed towards a Lake City Hawaii final. And while there's some people out there, I know Allison was saying that she thinks that Madison's going to win it all. I mean, they could. They very well could. I have seen so much. That's why we play the game. But if you really had to sit there and go by what, the odds makers are saying right now, I see a Lake City Hawaii thing in my crystal ball.
For sure. And Sam with one last comment here. Eagle upset Rigby in 2020 at the state tournament, 51-43. That's when Eagle had Tanner Hayhurst, and we know how good he was. So, anything can happen this time of year at state, that's for sure. Wayne DeZubak, our 5A broadcaster for all of the 5A coverage on IdahoSports.com. Thank you for stopping by and helping us break down everything.
Are we done? Because Scott Burton took more time than me last time.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes per. We're trying to keep it on a tight schedule. And look, the boss is even in here, Paul Kingsbury. 4A coming up next with Scott Burton.
I guess that's my exit cue.
Exit stage left to Zubak. All right.
Okay, I'm out of here.
We'll see you later. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us, Wayne. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with your 4A state preview with Scott Burton. On the other side of this break, you're watching the live boys basketball state tournament preview special here on IdahoSports.com.
The first step, the handholds, the new schools and the new everything. 12 years of teachers and meetings and paperwork. Nobody told you about the forms it takes to raise a kid. All the rides to here and there, the best friends and old friends, and parents of friends who you'll see in 5 years in the grocery store and still remembers that kid's mom. It's all flown by, and you did it. You did all the steps. And your last step is there next. That's why we created Next Steps, where all the post-high school options available to Idaho teens and their parents are in one place. Easy steps you can offer that help them find their future, whatever that may be.
All right, taking our next steps here on the IdahoSports.com preview show. Brandon Baney joined by Scott Burton. Scotty's going to be broadcasting the 4A state basketball tournament for us on IdahoSports.com. So again, we want to interact with the fans. We want to mix it up tonight. So if you have a 4A question or a shout out or a comment, you want to shout out a player, you want to shout out a team, you want to ask Scott a question, drop a comment. We'll throw it up on the screen and interact with the fans live. And while you're sitting there as well, go ahead and like this video, because as people maybe can't watch it live tonight, they're tied up doing other things. They want to come back and watch it tomorrow, or maybe even Thursday morning before state gets rocking and rolling. It's going to help them find the video a lot easier if you just click that like button. It takes 2 seconds, and Scott really takes it personally if you don't like when he's on. So for Scott's sake, please hit that like button.
Oh, Brandon. Yeah, and I even got razzed by our 5A guy. I mean, what's going on, Wayne?
You're right. Right, for sure. Hey, speaking of Wayne, super quick, Sam had a question. Bracket Baney, last question I forgot to ask. Who's covering the 5A state tournament? You and Wayne? It is going to be Wayne and Clay Hatfield on all of that play-by-play coverage. I'm going to be doing the 1A D1 tournament, which is, oh man, like an hour from now. So we got a long ways to go. Ryan Trappin says Scott Burton is the man.
Hey, Trappin.
And how about right off the bat, Scott, let's talk about Valley View. They've got to be one of the stories of this tournament. Jaden says, don't count them out. You saw what happened to Middleton. Yeah, we all did. That really turned a lot of heads when Valley View knocked off Middleton at districts to earn a spot to state.
Oh, yeah, you're not kidding. I mean, I think prior to that, nobody had really given Valley View a shot to do much of anything. But, you know, you knock off the defending 4A champs in the district tournament, all of a sudden you've got everybody's attention. You know, I mean, this is a team that's coming in, the number 8 seed, 14-10 record. You know, they're one of those teams that is going to need some help, or specifically Jacob Martinez. You know, he's been the guy that's been carrying the mail for them all season long, averaging 17 points a game. What is the supporting cast going to do for Valley View? And that's going to be the question, because Martinez has been seeing boxing one all season long. And basically when that happens, you're telling Valley View, you don't have anybody else that's going to beat us. We stop Martinez, we stop Valley View. Well, you know, I think they had a little something to say about that on other aspects of the game against Middleton. And, you know, it got people thinking, can they still do the same thing that people have been doing to Valley View all season long? But again, you know, when it comes down to the tournament, is Martinez going to get the help that he needs?
That is a big question as we take a look at this 4A bracket. Valley View, the 8 seed, they're going to have to play Hillcrest right away up top, the number 1. And boy, they are going to be a really tough opponent for Valley View, and honestly, anybody who comes their way. Cool Cat says Hillcrest is going to be tough to beat in 4A. Isaac Davis and the Kessler kids, Cooper and Kobe, both are legit. Break down this Hillcrest team for us, Scott.
Oh, I tell you what, this may be the most complete team in the tournament. They are good, you know, inside out. Nobody graduated last year. They're the highest scoring offense in the tournament at about 67 points a game. You know, and they lost 2 games this year, and it was the second and third game of the season, both to Utah schools, right? And the two schools in Utah have a combined record of 40-10. So, I mean, this is a Hillcrest team that is, let's see, they haven't played any of the 4A state qualifiers, but they have played 5 of the 5A qualifiers and beat them all. You know, they are averaging beating 4A opponents this year by 25 points. On paper, this Hillcrest team is legit. You know, Isaac Davis on the inside, the 6'7" sophomore. You know, so we're not done talking about this kid. You know, 14 points a game. I mean, he's being recruited by D1 schools. I mean, he is the real deal. They've got shooters. You know, Jace Austin is shooting 48% beyond the arc, 48% from 3. And then Kobe Kessler, 19 points. I mean, this is a team that is, I can't say it enough. This team is good.
And you know what? There's a lot of teams we could say that about. I think in terms of most wide open tournament, 4A is it. If we look at this bracket, I mean, just look at the next matchup. District rivals, Middleton, the 4 seed, Bishop Kelly, the 5. Now, Middleton beat BK twice in the regular season, didn't get to play them at districts. It's hard to beat the same team 3 times, and they've been good, tight battles both times.
They have. Middleton comes in the number 4 seed by the skin of their teeth. They had to win 3 loser-out games to get here, including surviving a play-in game, which went to overtime. Now, the thing about Middleton, obviously, they're coming in at 23-2. But I think what happens with a team like Middleton, it's going to be really interesting to see because, you know, they were cruising right along. You know, we can talk about Tyler Medeiros, the 6'7", 4A player of the year. Well, let's just talk about him for a minute. You know, double-doubles all over the place, multiple, all season long, even had a triple-double this year. I mean, that's huge in high school basketball. It just doesn't happen. He scored 1,000 points in his career, over 700 rebounds, over 200 assists, over 100 block shots. If you haven't seen this kid play, I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch, and he's a D1 recruit, you know, not by accident. But, you know, if that's not enough, they can throw a 6'10" Michael Day at you as well. And he can score in the paint and shoot the 3 if they need him to do that. You know, they're the tallest team in the 4A bracket, you know, and they've got a solid point guard and Talmadge Suki that can shoot the ball as well, 40% from beyond the arc for him. This is a really good team, but here's what I question. They got punched in the mouth by Valley View, and it really sent them reeling because they really had to fight and battle and claw to get into this tournament, you know, and they lost their swagger a little bit. And I think through that process, they kind of became a little unsure of themselves. At least that's my take on them. We'll see if they can get that kind of that attitude back again, because a lot of times you see teams that come into a tournament, it doesn't matter what the record is. What kind of pep in the step do they have? What kind of confidence? What kind of swagger? Middleton lost that, I think, right at the end. And it'll be interesting to see if they get it back because they definitely have all the tools to go deep into the tournament and defend their title.
Yeah, Scott, you mentioned that playing game with Blackfoot. I was on the call for that for IdahoSports.com. And yeah, you're right. The game went to overtime. Middleton, late in regulation, missed 2 consecutive front ends of 1-and-1 situations that allowed Blackfoot to tie the game. Medeiros ended up fouling out of the game. His impact was minimal. They've got the size, and when they can couple that with the shooting and the spacing, that's when Middleton is really at their best. Mm-hmm. Talking to their coach, Nate Hartman, before the game, he said, that's really where we've run into problems this year is when we don't trust. We don't trust the system. We don't trust that our teammate's going to be in the spot that he's supposed to be in, and our spacing gets all messed up because of that. And so if they can work that out, I think they can be okay. But like you said, it's a loaded side of the bracket. Cool Cat says Hillcrest beat Madison twice already. And of course, they're the number 1 seed on that side of the bracket. Unfortunately, you don't get like a 10-point head start for beating Madison twice. Everybody starts at zeros.
Yeah. And well, I will say one more shout out to Middleton too. I mean, after last year when the cupboard went bare for the most part, except for Medeiros, and they lost their head coach, Andy Harrington, everybody was kind of thinking, well, what is this Middleton team going to do? All they're going to have is Tyler Medeiros. Well, losing 4 starters and their head coach, and here they are with a better record than what they had last year. So, hats off to Middleton for overcoming that.
Definitely. Let's bring up another comment from Cool Cat here. Flip to the other side of the bracket. Julian Bowie from Pocatello is another stud. People are going to be surprised by that kid, only a sophomore too. And that'll lead nicely into our 4A players to watch here, Scott. We picked a player from each team. And again, not a comprehensive list, just a starting point for the conversation. But here's the list of 4A players to watch. Blake Hawthorne, who is a good, strong, physical big underneath for Bishop Kelly. Stockton Page, great point guard for the Burley Bobcats. Mikey Lloyd can beat you inside and outside for the Jerome Tigers. Cooper Kessler from Hillcrest, we already talked about. We talked about Medeiros from Middleton. Jamari Simpson is the point guard for Moscow, leads that attack. Julian Bowie from Pocatello, just the sophomore, and then Jacob Martinez from Valley View, we already talked about as well. But this is a pretty good list, and about half point guards and about half big men. Yeah,
this is a really interesting field. And you know what? Nothing would surprise me in this tournament. The only thing that would surprise me in the first round is if Hillcrest fell to Valley View. That would be the only surprise in the first round to me, because I just think Hillcrest is that much better than a lot of the teams in the tournament. But that's not to say that any of the others couldn't get hot. And, you know, if we talk about some of these other matchups, let's go to the second game of the tournament, Middleton and Bishop Kelly. We just got done talking about Middleton. Well, what about Bishop Kelly? You know, BK is one of those teams that will just throw athletes at you, one athlete after another. This is a team with experience too. They've got 9 seniors on this squad, and they are at state for the 9th time in 10 years. So you see teams a lot of times just sort of collapse under the bright lights and the big stage. That's not Bishop Kelly. This is where they're used to being, and that's at the state tournament. You know, and they're led by the big three, Tommy Hunter, Aiden McGarvin, and of course we just mentioned Blake Hawthorne, who leads the way with 16 points a game. All three of those guys averaging in double figures. In fact, you know, Hawthorne is signed to play basketball at the University of Chicago. He's first team All-State. I mean, this kid is the real deal if you haven't watched him play. But, you know, the funny thing about BK, though, you know, if there's a knock on BK is they don't defend the three-point line as well as they should. You know, and so if you run into a team that's shooting the ball really, really well, they don't get out to the shooters quite as quickly as they would like to, or they would have to. But, you know, they're still a pretty good team. They open up with Middleton, which is, I mean, my goodness, their Achilles heel if they've got one. And it's Middleton. You know, 2 losses this season to them, one by 5 points, one by 10, but they've lost 10 in a row to Middleton. You know, and it's Bishop Kelly and Middleton, both on the boys' side and the girls' side, that Middleton just has their number. Can Bishop Kelly get over it this time? I don't know. We'll see.
Well, a team that on the bottom half of the bracket, a team that had Pocatello's number this year was Century, but the Thunder come through at districts and they win on a walk-off shot basically, and then they win by 2 in the district championship. And Pocatello, boy, that district was a dogfight all the way, but they survived. They get the number 2 seed for their efforts. But now they get a Burley team that just beat Jerome in the District 4 championship. I'm not sure that's a great prize for Pocatello right off the bat, a Burley team that's coming in hot.
Well, you know, and this is a really interesting matchup. I think it's one of the more interesting matchups in the first round because, you know, Pocatello, they're good. I mean, they are solid, and they're coming out of a conference which is sparking another debate of why teams and how teams should be awarded a state berth, because you've got Preston and Century sitting home, and they're both really good basketball teams. But, you know, that's a conversation for another day. You know, for Pocatello, the number 2 seed coming in with a record of 21-3, and 2 of those 3 losses were to Century, and they were both blowouts. So you talk about a team having another team's number. Century definitely did with Pocatello. The other loss was to Lake City, the number 1 ranked 5A team. So this is a really solid Pocatello team that returns almost everyone from last year, aside from Brevin Vaughn, who they lost. But, you know, somebody mentioned it before, Julian Bowie, the sophomore. Wow, this kid can play 25 points a game, and he's going to shoot the ball from anywhere. You know, as soon as he crosses the midcourt stripe, you better pick him up, because he's not afraid to let it fly, and he is good. You know, he's going to have a little bit of help. Ryan Payne, the only other Thunder to average double figures with 12 points, and he's a solid point guard for the Thunder as well. Pocatello is generally very guard heavy, very guard dominated, which means they've got speed and they can shoot. And that's Pocatello. They love to penetrate and kick, and they've got the shooters to do it. But do they have the experience? The last trip with Pocatello was, I think, in 08 and 09. But this is a really interesting matchup because then you got Burley on the other side coming in as the number 7 seed with a record of 11-12. And people are going to look at that and say, well, what is Burley doing here? Well, they started the season 3-9, and then things got clicking. And you want to talk about a team that was playing and is playing their best basketball at the end of the season. It's Burley. They got hot at the right time, and they do it because they just, I don't know, they're one of those teams that just hang around. They are average at best on offense, and they are physical on defense. They will D you up and they'll get in your face, and defense travels. And so that makes them a really interesting draw in a state tournament. I mean, they're led by Stockton Sheets, who's averaging 14 points a game, a great scorer. He can put the ball on the floor and get to the rack. Kleckler, big guy, 6'5". He's pretty versatile. He's averaging 13. Stockton Page, 9. So those are the big 3 for Burley, but they don't have a stat line. They don't have a star player. They don't have something that just jumps off the page at you, other than the fact that they hang around. And it's a gritty Bobcat team that is playing their best basketball right now. But they've got their hands full with Pocatello.
Definitely. Okay, we're running a little long, Scott. So very quickly break down this Jerome Moscow 3-6 matchup for me.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another interesting matchup, and I'll be really quick with this one. First of all, fun fact: Moscow coach Josh Urig and Jerome coach Joe Messick kind of grew up together. Both are Shoshone Indian graduates. And even though Coach Messick is just a little bit older, they're great friends. And they're just really good guys. So let's talk about Jerome for a minute. 22-2. We talked about Middleton just a second ago. Maybe they lost their swagger a little bit. Jerome went through the same thing when they got hit in the mouth by Burley in the district tournament. And can they get it back? That's the question, because this Jerome team is dangerous. They can put 5 guys on the floor that can score, and they haven't lost on the road all year. Both of their losses were at home. Hillcrest and Middleton are the only other 2 that can say that. So they travel really, really well. They've got the 3rd best scoring defense in the tournament as well, led by Mikey Lloyd, who's averaging 16 points, Scotty Cook 13 points, Gavin Capps 11 points, Skylar Maurer and Colton Elison, lockdown defenders. They're just really, really good. If they have a weakness right now, it's going to be, can they get their swagger back? And they don't have a lot of depth, and that's going to be maybe something that's going to play a part in the tournament. But we'll see. Jerome's gone 35 years without a state title. That's the longest drought of any team in the tournament. So Moscow, really quickly, 15-9, number 6 seed. But again, don't let that fool you, because of their 24 games this year, only 6 were against 4A opponents. Lakeland twice, Sandpoint 4 times, and they won all 6 of those. So you never know what you get out of the North. This Moscow team is good. They may be the best shooting team in the tournament because they flat out shoot the basketball, and they live and they die by the 3-point shot, which makes them dangerous. They can beat anybody, but if they're not hitting, they can lose to anybody. And they're deep. And they play 9 dudes. They get up and down the floor. They shoot the ball in transition. They are a spectator's fun game to watch because they get up and down and they shoot. Jamari Simpson, 12 points a game, excellent scoring point guard. Braden Bowen, 13 points, shooting 43% from beyond the arc. And when I say they shoot the 3, they are averaging 25 3-point shots per game. I mean, this is a team that is just going to live and die beyond the arc. It's going to be a fun game.
For sure. Cool Cat says, great insights, Scott. Learning a lot. Hey, if you liked what Scott had to say, hit that like button. If you're watching the video, that helps us out with our numbers on social media and the algorithms and all that fun stuff too. Okay, 1-word answer here, Scott. Brad wants to know, who wins 4A?
Hillcrest.
Okay, I'll say Middleton. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
I'll fill out my bracket and we'll compare, but I think it's going to be a Hillcrest against Pocatello in the final.
Okay. All
My
right.
Jerome peeps are going to kill me because I can't say that or I'd be homering.
Right.
I'll say Jerome over Hillcrest. How's that?
Yep. Sean Kane says, wow. I don't know if that was for you or me, but we'll say it was for you. Thanks everybody for tuning into our 4A preview. Thanks for hanging with us a little long. And Brad says, wow too. Everybody, boy, Scott.
I don't know if those are good or bad. I mean,
I don't either. No clarification there. Scott Burton is going to be broadcasting the 4A state basketball tournament for us on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for stopping by, Scott. We appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Nick Newbury, real quick. Jerome for the W. Terrible, Burton.
I know. They're my Jerome guys piping in. I shouldn't have ever said anything because I'm sorry. I can't do that.
Okay,
right?
and here's a wow for me. Sean says wow to the Middleton pick. He thinks Hillcrest. So okay. There you go.
I think it's Hillcrest to lose, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pocatello won, if Jerome won, if Middleton won.
It's open. It's open for business.
It's wide open. It truly is wide open. I promise.
No doubt. All right. Our 3A preview coming up next. Thanks for all the 3A fans for being patient with us. And as we ran a little long on the 4A, we're going to take a quick break and bring in Lance Taylor next to break down this 3A field. You're watching the IdahoSports.com 2022 State Boys Basketball Live Preview Special on IdahoSports.com.
If you're like me, you'll love the outdoors. There's adventures to have and new paths to explore. That's why you need to be focused and engaged when you're on the road. You have more footprints to leave and more trails to take. When it comes to distracted driving, well, that's just not going to happen on my Squatch. Don't let it happen on yours either. Wait a minute, what do you mean by outdoors?
Back on our IdahoSports.com, a live state basketball preview, joined now by Lance Taylor. Lance, you need to unmute. Let me see. Unmute your mic. Lance, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, you're good. Yep,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. First question, Lance. How did you get from that Sasquatch commercial to the front of your computer so quickly?
Well, I'll tell you, I shaved my back and then ran in front of the computer. Hey, I just got to say one thing to Scott. I've been inviting Scott for years down to, come fishing down here with me. We'll take the drift boat out on the Snake River. But after his fun fact comment, I don't know if I can do that. That's a Paul Blart Mall Cop statement. Fun fact. So, Scott, you are now Paul Blart and Iffy on the invite.
All right. Well, only unfun facts here as we get ready for our 3A preview. And again, we want your questions, comments, shout outs live. Shout out your favorite team, your favorite player. Ask Lance a question about this 3A field. And right off the bat, we've got Amber and Lindsey Green. What do y'all think about McCall Donnelly? They got all the way to the championship last year, Lance, and they come in highly touted once again. If we look at this bracket overall, first year that it's seeded according to Max Preps, that's players to watch. Hold on. Let me make sure I got the right thing up here. They come in as the number 2 seed overall as we look here, and they're going to take on Sugar Salem right away. What do you think of that first round matchup, Lance?
Well, McCall is a very good team. I mean, you got DJ Green returning from last year, and a lot of people, you're used to having the state championship team have the MVP on that. Green was actually our MVP of the tournament last year, as myself and Alec Pope did the 3A tournament. And I mean, he was just so impressive as an individual last year in the tournament, leading his team in their first year up to 3A to that state championship game. McCall is a very, very good team. He's got pieces around him as well. He's the only one that averages in double figures at 18, just a little over 18 points a game. But McCall, I expected them to be quite impressive at this tournament.
All right. Cool Cat comes in with a comment. Sugar Salem is a sneaky pick in 3A, playing much better lately. The problem is, Lance, is it was hard to get a read on them because their district was a little down this year overall.
Well, it was. And the way Sean Freeman plays his teams is a little bit different. What he does is he uses a big, large rotation during the regular season. So if you got 12 guys on that roster, they're all pretty much just rotating in and out the entire game. They don't have a player on their team that's averaging in double digits. Toby Pinnock is their leading scorer, and then you got, a couple behind them that are, in the 8s and so forth. But what happens is, and in the 3 state championship years, you got to remember they've won 3 state championships in the last 5 years. In those years, one of the things that he did was he didn't always have the glossiest regular regular season record. But what he does is he knows exactly which groups play the best together, and then he tightens that rotation up come district and state time, and it has paid off.
Definitely. And hey, all you 3A fans that are watching this live stream on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or Twitter account, as you're sitting there just hanging out, hit that like button. That's going to help us out a lot, and that's going to help all the fans that couldn't be here live tonight find this video tomorrow, because Facebook back in their secret vault, however they determine what gets pushed to the top of your news feed, the more likes, the more engagements, the more shares. Go ahead and share it with your friends and family. That'll help us out a ton as well, because we want as many people as possible to see this. So let's bring in a couple comments here. From Shannon, she says, "Go Eagles, Marsh Valley Eagles." Isaac Bowman says, "The Valley." I'm assuming that's Marsh Valley. Let's talk about Marsh Valley. They're the defending 3A state champions, Lance, and they are the number 1 seed coming into this tournament. They're taking on Bonners Ferry, the champs from up north.
Well, I'll just get it out of the way right now. Marsh Valley is my pick to win this tournament. So I'm just going to get it out of the way. I think Marsh Valley is one of the top 5 teams in the state of Idaho, period, any school size. They are fantastic. One of the things you got to remember is they played Orem High School earlier this year, Orem High School out of Utah, and Orem, who hit the top 20 in the nation at one time during the season this year, beat them by, I think, 12. They knocked off Hillcrest by over 20. Orem did, or close to 20, I should say. Marsh Valley is a very good team. I think if Marsh Valley plays their best, that their best is better than anybody else's best in the 3A. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be beat, but a lot more stars have to align for other schools than have to align for Marsh Valley to win this tournament. That's how good Marsh Valley is. I mean, you look at some of their guys, you look at Carter Howell, Peyton Howe, Hunter Roche. Hunter, of course, is a quarterback as well. Peyton Howe, who's a senior, as a sophomore, was our defensive player of the tournament in the state tournament that year. A fantastic athlete overall. But one thing you will notice about Marsh Valley, they know absolutely and exactly who they are. And more importantly, they know who they are not. And they stick to the things of what they are. They are so tough. And there is not a player on that team who can't shoot once they cross half court. Now, obviously, that's exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point. They're a shooting team. They can make it work. They are just very, very good.
Yeah, if we look at their side of the bracket, they've got Fruitland and Kimberly as well. I want to swing back down to the bottom half of that bracket, though, because we had a question come in from Devin. And he says, what do you think about, actually, before we get to Homedale, we'll talk about Homedale in just a second, Devin. He wants to know what we think about Homedale. JJ Volker says, shout out to Tyler Caps and the Fruitland Grizz. Let's talk about Fruitland first, because they are actually on the same side of the bracket as Marsh Valley. This 4-5, Fruitland and Kimberly. This is the toughest opening round matchup for me to gauge. Lance, what do you think?
Well, I think it is. We'll talk mostly about Fruitland. Just to mention about Kimberly, I believe, is the most athletic team in the tournament. Meaning, if I had to, I'm a track guy as well. If I had to take these kids and put them on a track, they're my best athletes. They're a fantastic athletic bunch. But let's talk about Fruitland for just a minute. When you look at Fruitland, what are the places, when you look at the upper half of the bracket, where Marsh Valley could potentially get hurt? I don't see this happening, but if they could get hurt anywhere, it is that Marsh Valley is not a super big team. So if Marsh Valley was off for any reason, if they had a struggle scoring, it is a potential that a team can step up and can out-rebound Marsh Valley and get some putbacks. You look at a Bauer. You look at Bauer at 6'8", 225 pounds, averaging double digits. That is a situation where if Marsh Valley was to get knocked off in the first round, I think the team that gives the best opportunity for that to happen would be Fruitland. Fruitland just has that size that, again, if there's anything that you look at with Marsh Valley, it hasn't really been exploited. Their size, but if they were off, there is a potential that a team that's tall and big could step up, win that rebounding battle, and could potentially get up and steal a ball game.
Yeah, 3 teams from District 3 ended up making state: McCall Donnelly, Fruitland, and Homedale. So here's Devin. He wants to know, what do you think about Homedale? If we look at the bottom half of this bracket, Lance, this to me is kind of intriguing. You've got Homedale as the 6th seed. They're just solid athletes. They're tough physical kids. And Snake River is a team that I've had a hard time getting a grasp on because they play in the same league as Marsh Valley, and sometimes they get overshadowed by the Eagles, but they're also a very solid team.
Yeah, they always are. Every year, year in, year out. When you look at Homedale and you talk about their athleticism as well, you talk about Jackson Dines. Well, where have you heard that before? He was under center all year long. You got Mason Strong there as well. And where have you heard about Hayden Kinslow? He was the one getting the handoffs from Jackson Dines all year long. This is a very athletic team. Kinslow has a number of football offers as well. Not sure where he's going yet. But again, this is another very athletic team. I don't think they have as much of an ability to put high scores up on the board as some of the other teams do. You take a Marsh Valley, if they get hot, they can put up triple digits in a game. And that's how good of shooters they are. I think Homedale is a team that's a little more like a Sugar Salem in a sense that they've got to get out and they've got to use those athletes to defensively keep games under a certain amount of points. If they can keep it under a certain amount of points, they have the firepower to put it in a game, to put it in the hole, enough to win a ball game. But I think if games start getting up into the 60s, 70s plus, Homedale and Sugar falls into that as well. They might struggle to win a ball game at that.
Yeah, Amber and Lindsey Green say Fruitland and Homedale are scary teams. I agree. That bottom half of the bracket is very wild and unpredictable, I think.
Yeah.
Sven Elskog used to be one of our own here at IdahoSports.com.
Many a game with Sven. Hello, Sven.
Yeah. Your former broadcast partner back in the day, Sven. So Sven is an all-star, and there are also several all-stars competing at this tournament. Let's take a look at our 3A players to watch here, Lance. We picked one from each team. Ridge Williams, great guard for Bonners Ferry. Nolan Bauer. He's the biggest player in the tournament, right? 6'8" for Fruitland. Mason Strong of Homedale, good solid athlete. Jackson Bear might be the fastest player in the field for Kimberly. Peyton Howe, great point guard for Marsh Valley. DJ Green from McCall Donnelly, reigning 3A player of the year. Cole Gilbert of Snake River, solid athlete. He was the quarterback for their football team this year. And then Toby Pinnock underneath, the post big man for Sugar Salem. Which names jump out to you on this sheet?
Well, you look at Toby Pinnock from Sugar Salem. He's probably got the best moves I've ever seen for a big man. I shouldn't say ever seen for a big man, but at this level, his moves are fantastic. He's not super tall, but he's big and he's able to get his way around there. But I think when you look at Green from McCall Donnelly, such a tremendous individual talent. Others, have to step up around him as well. I believe they will. I believe Ethan Teeney's, step up, have good games. Alex Johnson, Tate Ova. These are some good players as well. But Green is a kind of an all-star among all-stars with this group as an individual talent. Very, very good. However, from a team standpoint, you look at Marsh Valley, they are just so good. And, Peyton Howe was a good pick there to talk about a player to watch. But you're also going to have to watch Carter Howell. You're going to have to watch Hunter Roach. You're going to have to watch a number of other players that can step up and can absolutely just hurt you so bad. I mean, they are literally one of those teams that you can think, hey, we're in this game. And 2 minutes later, after shock and awe, you're like, what in the heck just happened? And you find yourself down by 15-20. They're that kind of a team.
Yeah, too many great players to list there on that graphic. Yeah. Valerie Rodriguez says, "Let's go Fruitland." Shout out Eddie Rodriguez. And Matthew Arnold says, "Don't sleep on McCall. They're scary good and show up when the games count." They certainly did last year in a COVID shortened season. Right? They ended up having significantly fewer games than everybody else in the 3A field. So
they did.
One last 3A note before we wrap up here. Snake River, got to give a shout out to Coach Robert Coombs. Picked up career win number 500 earlier this year. Kind of went under the radar a little bit, but man, that's an incredible career at Snake River, and the Panthers are right back in the mix as well. So this is a 3A tournament that's going to be a lot of fun, Lance, and we appreciate you stopping by to break it all down for us as well.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Awesome. All you 3A fans, hopefully you stick around for our 2A conversation up next with Paul Kingsbury. If not, go ahead and hit that like button on the way out. That's going to really help us out.
I've just got to give a little humility here for just a minute. I am so used to being the best looking guy on these podcasts, Now Scott gives me a run a little bit, but now that Wayne DeZubak is here, I mean, Wayne is such a handsome man. And it just, I'm having to eat a little crow here. I still might edge him by a little bit, but Wayne, wow. And I think it's because he married someone from Malad, my hometown, and that has really kept him in the glow throughout his life. Just kidding, you guys. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Well, the broadcasters get less handsome with each passing guest, which means it's time to pass the baton on to Paul Kingsbury for our 2A state preview, which is coming up right after this break. You're watching the 2022 IdahoSports.com state basketball preview extravaganza. We'll be back right after this on IdahoSports.com.
Every day, people are choosing to buy Idaho. It's an easy choice. There are quality Idaho-grown companies for almost any product or service you need. Buying Idaho means keeping our money in Idaho, and that boosts our local economy. If everyone living here just spent $100 with Idaho businesses, we would generate over $9 million in tax revenue to help improve our state. Look for the logo and help support our Idaho businesses, because Buy Idaho builds Idaho.
Back on our IdahoSports.com state basketball preview special, coming at you live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. Thanks for being with us. We're breaking down the 2A state basketball tournament now, Brandon Baney with Paul Kingsbury. Let me unmute your mic there, Paul. And it says, I can't unmute your guest because they chose to mute themselves, Paul. Could you please unmute your mic?
Some people might think it's better that way, but I got to tell Lance that was a really long way around to get a shout out into Malad. I think that was long, windy road. That was, yeah.
Well, Malad is not here for the 2A state bracket, but man, there's a lot of good teams. And hey, while you're watching this, if you want to give your favorite team or player a shout out, or you want us to answer a question, go ahead and just drop a comment in. And look at this right off the bat. We've got starting point guard for the St. Mary's Lumberjacks, Coleman Ross. St. Mary's is nice. They're the defending 2A champs, Paul. First title since 1960 last year, trying to run it back in 2022.
That's right. And they actually call Coleman the Stash is his nickname. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if that's like 70s style, or if he can actually grow a good mustache. I'm really, Magnum PI or, 13-year-old fuzzy. I'm not sure which one it's going to be.
Right. Well, okay, let's pull up the 2A bracket here. And again, as you're watching this preview here on IdahoSports.com, go ahead and hit that like button. That's going to help us out a ton. And Paul takes it really personally if you don't like it when he's on. So
I do.
And he's the boss, and I don't want to have to deal with that all week. So please hit that like button. That's going to help us out a ton. So here is the 2A bracket. And we talked about St. Mary's, the defending state champs coming in. They are the number 3 seed overall, though. So because of Max Prep's rankings, right? That's been a talking point amongst the fans this year.
Yeah, and you look at St. Mary's and look at their schedule. Their season schedule. They're 9-0 against 3A and 4A schools in Northern Idaho, and they're the number 3 seed coming in. And we can say that with a couple of other teams that we'll talk about as well, where their schedule was pretty strong as far as who they played. Melba was the same way. 3A beat Weiser a couple times, beat South Fremont, beat Homedale, and they're the number 4 seed coming in. So again, you can go to Idaho Sports, and there's a link on the homepage where Scott Burton actually broke down the Max Preps rankings during football, and it explains it pretty well. So, but like a couple of the coaches told me this week, is it perfect? No. I mean, do we have a lot of conference matchups in the beginning? Yeah, we got Melba Ambrose, West Side Bear Lake. This is gonna be the 5th time for those two playing coming up. But is it better than it has been in the past with just that blind draw? Yeah. So coaches, with anything, with any change, there's we like it, we don't like it, but I think overall, people have to understand that it's a good change. Hopefully we don't get those state championship matchups in the quarterfinals anymore, at least not as often. I think that's really the goal behind this.
For sure. So we just put the 2A bracket up on the screen, and we've already got, the 2A fans on the girls preview show were by far the most vocal, and that's playing out here in our boys preview as well.
You might say it's the 2A classification. I say it's you and me.
Okay, well, I don't have that large of an ego, Paul, but Chris Sand says, go Jacks. And boy, we got all the St. Mary's Lumberjacks in here. Look at this. Tristan Gentry Nelson. Coleman Ross got the best stash in Idaho. So there we go. Yeah.
I think his nickname's what? Giraffe, Tristan? Is that right? You have to tell us how you got that. Well, he's 6'6", but you might have to tell us how you got Giraffe.
I will say I covered the 2A state tournament last year, and the best feature I saw was Brett Stansel. He has since graduated. Man, he had a mullet that was on point. It looked good.
Did you have a mullet in high school, Brandon? You went to school in Montana, right? Is it
yes.
like a requirement to have a mullet there?
No, as you can see, I mean, I don't have much hair left. It was already on the way out by the time I was in high school. So let's get some of these other shout outs in. St. Mary's well represented as they should be. JJ Volker says, go Braden Volkers, B-Vokes, number 24, and the Mustangs. Jammy says, go North Fremont. And Justin and Jennifer Jacobson. Bear Lake is starting all underclassmen, and all have dropped over 20 at different times. Yep. Definitely not the 7 seed. Well, the problem with Bear Lake was, as we continue to look at that bottom half of the bracket, Paul, St. Mary's against Firth, 3 and 6, and then West Side and Bear Lake. The problem with Bear Lake is they didn't have their entire starting 5 together until very late in the year. And so they played a really tough schedule and were always shorthanded, it seemed like, and always came up just short. Now, they just got done beating West Side twice at districts. So even though they're the 7 and West Side's the 2, what do you think? Are the Bears the favorite in this rematch?
Possibly. I mean, Bear Lake had a lot of injuries and they weren't really healthy until mid to late January. After January, I think it was 27th, they went 8-1. And so they're in the upswing, and you want to be playing your best basketball end of the season, into districts, into the state tournament. Having your guys come back healthy can almost give you an advantage where teams overlook you. And so coming into the state tournament, Bear Lake coming in with healthy guys, Shaw and Crane, these guys can score points. They can get up and down the floor. Of course, Carlson, he knows what he's doing. He's been there 14 years and a couple state championships. And so, I think Bear Lake has the potential to surprise some people. Whether they surprise West Side, I don't know. You and I watched a pretty good West Side team last Saturday in that play-in game against Napa Christian at Burley. And Shirtliff just absolutely went off. I mean, he had 35 points. And so he had 60% of the points that day. And he was just everywhere. And when I mean everywhere, he actually came up to the broadcast afterwards and said, hey, thanks for coming. So we always appreciate that.
Yeah, the West Side, their athletes are always so well behaved and they're great men, not just great athletes. West Side, that's my big question is who else steps up besides Bryther Shirtliff? Because at state last year, they never had that second banana emerge, and Shirtliff did a lot, but it wasn't enough, and they went 2 and out. So that's going to be interesting there. Top half of the bracket, Wyatt Helm says Melba is tough. Joe Reber might be the best athlete and player in 2A. Melba was, last year at state, they were a little bit banged up. Joe Reber ended up hurting his elbow at state.
At
pretty
state.
Nasty fall.
I was there for that at Eagle last year. And he went up, I think it was a dunk and just kind of swung under and badly dislocated that elbow. It was pretty gnarly to watch. And, about 3 months later, he was back to good health, 100% this summer. So he came back this year, averaging 20 points, almost 10 boards. So he came back okay.
Yeah, and last year at state as well, Cash Buse as a freshman was starting for them, and he kind of very quietly had like a broken toe or something with his foot and kind of played through it. So he was impacted. So Melba, I think, is coming to state this year with unfinished business. Unfortunately, they have to play Ambrose, their rivals, right away in that 4-5 matchup. And Ambrose, of course, they have unfinished business too. They got all the way to the championship last year and lost to St. Mary's in a tight game that wasn't decided until the final minute.
Right.
This is by far, I think, the best matchup of any classification on opening day. If you're going to pick one game to go to or tune into on IdahoSports.com, Melba Ambrose, to me, is the game.
Oh, 100%. And they know each other. They're both from that WIC, a very tough conference. And the last game either one played was against each other. And Ambrose lost that one to Melba. And so coming in, they have a lot of chips on those shoulders between the state tournament last year, between playing a conference rival to start the state tournament. In Idaho's, we talked about this before, is you lose on day one, you have no chance for the blue trophy. You can't come back the other way. And so winning day one is so vitally important, and day two, obviously, but for the morale and psyche, boy, winning that opener is going to be tough for both of them. I think you're right. I actually have this one marked as probably the best game of the day in the 2A and maybe most of the other classifications.
For sure. A little more love for Braden Volkers, number 24 B Volks. Yep. Let's go Mustangs.
And Volkers, let me throw this in there. Volkers, if he gets hot, he can shoot. He's well over 40% from the 3-point line. So he gets hot, that's gonna carry them a long way.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at the final matchup up top. That is North Fremont coming in as the number 1 seed. And of course, the theme of this tournament, Paul, is unfinished business, because North Fremont, of course, lost to St. Mary's last year in that legendary semifinal game where Colby Renner, I don't think he ever has to buy a meal in the town of St. Mary's ever again because of that incredible shot he hit at the end of that semifinal game last year.
Oh, they actually call him Logo Larry now because of that. You were on the call, I believe, and boy, it'd be great if we could actually pull up some audio of that call. Do we have that?
Yes. Now I'm going to warn people, I get very excited and very loud, so you may want to just turn the volume down just a touch. But here is that play from last year's semifinal between St. Mary's and North Fremont.
So Ross will inbound on the far sideline for St. Mary's. Sands, Renner, Bechtel, and Eli Gibson. You got to think they're going to try and get it to Eli Gibson here. 0.6 of a second left. St. Mary's down 1. They get it to Renner. Shot at the horn. It's in! It's in! Oh my goodness! Colby Renner, the big man, hits the 3 as time expires, and St. Mary's wins 45-43, and there is a mob at center court.
Yeah, so that was,
Who won? I couldn't understand. Who won that game again?
Yes, St. Mary's. It was incredible. And then Colby Renner came up and did the post-game interview with us as well. And he was so funny in the moment to crack a joke. He said, I was pretty much option number 5 out of 5 on that play with an inbounder. They threw the ball into me and probably were like, oh my God, why did I throw it to him? And so it was incredible.
And with 0.6 on the clock, I mean, that's the that's the shot you talk to your grandkids about. It's fantastic. I think it's great when that stuff happens. That's what state tournaments are all about, and that's why I think everybody loves state tournament basketball.
Yeah, for sure. Jared Badgett, Logo Larry is tough, and Scott Burton. Well done, Peter Brady. That's to me.
Wow. Did you get that reference, Brandon?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right.
I do. Yeah.
Brandon's a young guy. Yeah, he's just a kid.
It was the most incredible play I've ever seen in all of my years of broadcasting. Chris Sands, money, and they're hoping, those St. Mary fans are hoping they get that magic formula again. But North Fremont, back to our original point, they were undefeated last year, defending state champs, 2-time state champs, and they got knocked out. And they come in as the number 1 seed this year, and they're back for revenge.
Yeah, 6 of the teams on the bracket were on the bracket last year, and North Fremont coming in, they were back-to-back hoping for that three-peat, and it gets ruined by a last-second, almost half-court shot by the big guy. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow. And they had 1 loss on the year, and that was it. That's tough for them. And they ended up getting 3rd place, but that's, the green trophy is definitely not, or the red, I think red or green. It's definitely not the one they wanted to bring home, to Ashton. So, coming out this year, they've got, again, one of those teams with a big chip on their shoulder. They want to come out, they want to play hard, and they have to play hard from the get-go. And going up against a Valley Viking team who, on paper, they're the number 8 seed coming in, but they're actually better than their record indicates. They're in a 3-team conference, and they were the number 3 seed. They beat Declo, the number 1 seed, a couple of times in districts, but each one of those teams only beat each other by 1 or 2 the whole season. Wendell beat them by a last-second shot earlier in the season. So that 1, 2, 3 in districts really didn't mean a whole lot. And so Valley comes out with, a couple of good kids, Kyle Christensen, Jaden Johnson. Those guys can put up a lot of points. They average, double-figure points and into the rebounds. But it's going to be tough for Valley, obviously. But North Fremont coming in definitely can't overlook Valley, thinking, okay, we just have to think about who we're going to play Friday night. Is it going to be Melba or Ambrose? Because they do need to take that Viking team seriously.
Yeah, Brian Hardy, head coach there, longtime girls coach. He's been to state a lot over the years.
Good
Real
dude.
quick before we duck out, Paul, let's take a look at our 2A players to watch. We picked one from each team, and again, this is not a final list by any means, just a starting point. But we've got Johnny Sugarman, the great point guard for Ambrose, the son of head coach Ken Sugarman. He's such a smooth ball handler. Brady Shaw from Bear Lake, he was the hero. He hit the game-winning shot in overtime to beat Westside in the district championship. Burton Park from Firth, great athlete, great speedster, and a good guard. Joe Reber from Melba, we talked about. Jordan Lenz is a great point guard for North Fremont. Tristan Gentry Nelson of St. Mary's, we gave him a shout-out earlier. Kyle Christensen leads Valley, and then Bryler Shirtliff from Westside we talked about as well. Who stands out to you here on this list?
Go ahead and leave those up. We're talking about Jordan Lentz, 20 points a game, 2-time state player of the year. You look at Sugarman, 3-time first-team all-conference, all-state, over 1,000 points in his career. Now, his teammate, Hudson Hughes, also a 3-time all-conference player, also over 1,000 points. So you got two players for Ambrose with over 1,000 points in their career. They can score. You look at Kyle Christensen from Valley, kind of the same way. He's got 14 points a game, 11 boards a game. But Sugarman and Hughes, if they come out and play tough and play hard, again, we're going to go back and say that Melba Ambrose game might be, the game of, it could end up being the game of the tournament based on who gets into the championship game on Saturday. But top to bottom, I'm actually really looking forward to this 2A tournament. It could be, 4A is going to be good as well. But I'm really looking at, and I might be biased because I'm going to be there at Capitol. But I'm really looking forward to the 2A tournament. And if you're watching this and you go to Capitol, come up and say hi. We'd love to talk to you and say hi and get to know you. So yeah, swing on up at Capitol High School. They always treat us so well there. I love going to Capitol High School.
No doubt. The 2A tournament was the best last year between St. Mary's win over North Fremont, and the championship was super close, wasn't decided till the final minute. And even those consolation battles were really good. So yeah, I think it's going to be the same thing again this year. Thank you for hanging out with us on our 2A portion of the preview for state basketball 2022. If you're going to hang out through the 1As, awesome. If you just wanted to hang around for the 2A conversation, that's cool too. That's why we broke it up into segments. Hit that like button on the way out though. That's really going to help us out. For people that want to watch this tomorrow and maybe even Thursday, they're going to find it a lot easier because our Facebook overlords like it when you like things. So if you can go ahead and like this video and then share it as well, that would help out a ton. So Paul Kingsbury, thank you for breaking down the 2A bracket. We're looking forward to your coverage on IdahoSports.com all weekend long.
Been a blast. Thanks, Brandon.
All right, our 1A D1 preview with Logan Green on the way next. You're watching the 2022 IdahoSports.com Boys Basketball State Tournament Preview Special. We'll be back right after this.
The first step, the handholds, the new schools and the new everything. 12 years of teachers and meetings and paperwork. Nobody told you about the forms it takes to raise a kid. All the rides to here and there, the best friends and old friends and parents of friends who you'll see in 5 years in the grocery store and still remembers that kid's mom. It's all flown by and you did it. You did all the steps. And your last step is there next. That's why we created Next Steps, where all the post-high school options available to Idaho teens and their parents are in one place. Easy steps you can offer that help them find their future, whatever that may be.
All right, instead of taking myself out, let's add in Logan Green. Welcome back to our 2022 State Basketball Preview Special here on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. As you are hanging out tonight and watching this, go ahead and hit that like button. That's greatly appreciated. That helps us out in terms of sharing this tomorrow. Go ahead and share this as well with all your family and friends if they weren't able to make it live tonight. A lot of stuff going on. I guess Boise State's playing tonight or something. And I don't know, President Biden is on as well, talking State of the Union address. So people are going to come back tomorrow and maybe even Thursday to watch this. So if you hit that like button, that's going to help us out a ton. And also while you're here and you want us to break down a 1A D1 team or a player, you want to give a shout out, drop it in the comments and we'll throw it up on the screen. Logan Green with Brandon Baney, you and I are going to be broadcasting the 1A D1 state tournament. I'm excited.
Yeah, we got to do the girls tournament together. Well, half of it until, I had to dip out and have a baby, but, no big deal there. But it should be fun. You break down all these brackets and you say, who could be a dark horse to win this championship? I think of all of the brackets that this one is Lapway. I mean, that's no disrespect, but my goodness, it was mentioned earlier, a top 10 Max Preps team. This is a team that could beat anybody at any level. They have beaten they've beaten 5A teams. I just don't know at this point is anybody. I think the name of the game is who can compete with Lapway and who has a possibility of tripping them up at this point, because that is the daunting task that every single team has, knowing that if I win, eventually I'm going to meet Lapway in this tournament, and they are a juggernaut right now, just clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, for sure. This is Lapway's tournament, no doubt. A couple of late comments trickling in here. Todd, go North Fremont Huskies from our 2A preview. No doubt they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. JJ Volkers, big Melba fan. Love the prep cast. Thanks for everything, Idaho Sports. Thank you, JJ. We really appreciate it. Nick Newbury, you guys are great. Need to outbid NFHS when the rights come up again. That's another topic for another day, but thank you, Nick. We appreciate that. All right. Brandon.
Yeah, I think it was Volkers that got us those. I need to give it to you, Brandon. I'll give it to you on Thursday. Got some Melba swag. So I rock my Melba shirt around the house, and I got a couple of shirts this year. I saw that Ryan got a Lapway hoodie, and
Gags up north. Yep.
Lapway fans, wink, wink here. I'm just kidding. But it's always great to get. I love supporting the schools in any way I can out and about. But yeah, okay. It's gonna be a fun tournament. Lapway, super athletic. They might be the most fun team to watch in Idaho. And I think anybody that shows up to that tournament or tunes in and listens to it is going to be in for a treat if they've never seen Lapway before. If they've never heard them, never watched them, I think it's going to be a fun experience for all of them.
Okay, so here's the question from Brandon Higgins. Lapway's rank among the whole state. They've already beaten 2 5A teams this year, Coeur d'Alene and Lewiston. They're undefeated. They are on a 33-game winning streak dating back to last year. That is top 10 in the nation right now, according to Max Preps. They're still a ways off from their own record. Lapway set the Idaho record of 81 consecutive wins back in the day, but that's what they're aiming for.
Don't figure that it's Lapway that already has that record, right?
I know, right? I think the big matchup everybody wanted to see this year was Lapway and Lake City, right? Those are the two big dogs up north. Lake City, a 5A program. Talking to Lapway's coach, Zachary Eastman, they already played each other in the summer league. They played all these 5A schools in the summer, and that's how that regular season game with Coeur d'Alene actually made it on the schedule. They played Coeur d'Alene in summer ball, got a lot of buzz between the players, and they said, we should do this for real in the regular season. And that's how that came together. So, Lapway, definitely top 3. Hawaii and Lake City are so good, but I'd put them up there for sure.
I think they would 100% belong in the 5A semifinals. 100%. I think they would fit in. I think they would win. If you threw them in, like you said, anywhere except playing maybe Hawaii and Lake City in the first round of the 5A, they're going to win. And I we want to see it. I think it's bad. We want to see it. I would love to see them. Let's Lapway, y'all just hang tight at the Idaho Center, and after everybody leaves, we'll just play an unsanctioned night game between the 5A champs, and we'll settle it for real out there on the court. Once we're all done, we could find an outside court if we need to. But look at the other teams here. You look down at the bottom half of the bracket with Kamei, and they are a team that can hang with Lapway. They have been right there neck and neck with them earlier in the season. They did fall to them every time they played. But who didn't? But Kamei was right there in a couple of those games, late in those games. They were in it in the fourth quarter of that second matchup. Can't remember which one it was, but they were there. And I think Kamei, in the back of their mind, they're the one. They know that they can compete with them. Lapway have said, they like playing Kamei. I think Kamei is the one that gives them challenges, and they know each other well. Those kids also are playing each other summer ball, here and there. I just think if anybody's going to stop Lapway, it's going to be that Cami squad. So watch out for them. Should be fun to see how they can, if they can get there, though. You look at the bracket there, a couple of other great teams, including Grace, which Grace is a team that has not lost to a 1A team all season. I thought they did a fantastic thing late in the season. Grace scheduled that non-conference game with Skyline. They lost it, but I think it was good. They were on a roll. Grace, to that point, had won like something like 16 of the past 17 if you take out that Skyline game, and they had been over 20 points a game. Nobody was on there. Almost like you say that with Lapway, right? In District 2, that who's on their level, and Grace, really nobody was. And so they had to go outside and get a little more competition, which I thought was fantastic. Get that in scheduled so that when you get to state tournament and you see a potential Cami or Lapway, that you're going to be ready for it. So kudos to Grace for going out and doing that and kind of buffering themselves, getting ready for the state tournament this week.
For sure. All right, Logan, we got a ton of comments coming in here. Kenny04, I really hope you hung through, because he was asking all sorts of questions about Cami, but it was during the 2A segment. We weren't blowing you off. We just wanted to wait till the 1A D2. So he said, Cami underrated as F, as fun. No love for Cami, and Cami underrated. So Kenny04, I agree. The one team, because I've talked to 7 of the 8 coaches for this tournament, Logan, the one team that said we want Lapway is Cami.
Yeah.
Their coach, Aaron Skinner, said that, we played them twice in the regular season, and both times we were there at halftime. And in the first game, they were only down single digits, into the fourth quarter. And he said, Lapway is so explosive offensively. They can score in bunches. And once we knew we weren't going to make the comeback, I emptied my bench and got my younger guys playing time. So the final scores aren't indicative of that talent. It's the total opposite. Lapway wants to get out and run and play offense. I asked Coach Skinner about his style of play, and he said, it's not one that's fun to watch. Our fans say it's pretty boring. We grind teams out. We keep it in the 30s and 40s. He learned that from Ryan Ball, who's been a longtime coach up north. He's at Potlatch now. And so that's kind of their identity. They like slowing it down, grinding it out, and they've got the guys to do that.
Yeah, and that's, like you said, 2 contrasting styles where Lapway is going to run and gun it. Lapway put up 110 points in a game against Prairie this year. Like that, you think about that. College teams don't usually score 100 points, and they did it with 8 less minutes. Extremely impressive. But like you said, I think Cami has a good shot at least getting to the state tournament or state championship. And then you just never know what can happen there. We have seen David beat Goliath many times in many different sports around the world, and it can happen if you don't come out with your best self. And one of those key players, you look, David Klolt for Cami, 6'5" freshman. He's been guarding the big guys all season long, and he's just been growing. And you think about that, you've got a freshman. They start a freshman and 2 juniors. So 3 of their starting 5 are going to be back next year. This is a Cami team that will probably they're going to be right back in this conversation next year. So look out for them in this. I just think Cami has a good shot to get back, and we'll see.
Yeah, David Clute, the son of football coach Nels Clute, good overall athlete. Okay, you were talking about Grace. I think a lot of people think Grace is the other team that could get to state from that bottom half of the bracket, although we've got a player in the house here, Luke Thomas from Liberty Charter. He says Liberty Charter with the upset.
We would love to see it. And, if Liberty Charter is going to pull off an upset, Dallin Criddle's got to be on top of his game. He might be one of the funnest players I saw play all season. We saw him at the small school showcase back in December. It's a long time ago. And just heck of a player. He is fun to watch. When he steps out there, you just look at him and you say, yeah, he's a ball player. And Dallin Criddle, if he is hot, you never know. And they can put up points too. Right now, Liberty Charter is on fire. They've won 12 in a row. Their last loss was the opening game of the conference season to Rimrock, the 6th seed. So there might not be a hotter team right now than Liberty Charter coming in on a roll. Dallin Criddle's averaging 20 points, 7 rebounds a game. And, playing in March, whether it's college basketball, high school basketball, it's all about key players stepping up in March. And Dallin Criddle, he's one of those guys that can step up and pull a big upset. And hey, I'd love to see it. I love Cinderella. I want to see it happen. It'd be awesome.
No doubt. So that bottom half of the bracket could be Liberty Charters. They come in on this big win streak. Talking to their coach, Scott McConnell, he said the big change was early on in the season, guys got caught in the trap of basically standing around and watching Dallin Criddle do everything.
Do his thing.
Coach McConnell said, hey, look, we can't win with one guy. We need 5. And so once those complementary players starting getting more comfortable and trusting each other, and they've really taken off. And so, Liberty Charter is going to be a fun team to keep an eye on for sure. Ryan West says, somebody beat Lapway. I don't think so. Well, I never say never, but I agree. It's going to be very difficult. This is a Lapway team.
It would be monumental. It might be like a historic upset if it happens. Like they'd make a movie about it. So if you want a Disney movie about you, come down here and beat Lapway, and hopefully we get in the movie, Brandon. That would be awesome. But you look at the other teams. Rimrock also, they're going to give Grace a good game. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Rimrock, they beat Owyhee this year. I mean, Owyhee, Nevada, but forget that part. Just forget that they're from Nevada, and you could say we beat Owyhee, right? That we won't tell. But Rimrock came in, they blew through their conference season undefeated up until that final game of the year where they got knocked down by Liberty Charter in the district championship. So they're a team that's been used to winning all season long, and that's contagious. You come out and you expect to win, and they're a team that could give Grace a hard time in that game. I think Grace comes away with it, but I think, like that comment said, that Grace Kamiah game might be the best game of the tournament for sure. Definitely.
Jody Reeves with the comment there. Rimrock, they played that game with Owyhee because their coach, Aaron Hall, that's where he's from. He's from Owyhee, Nevada. I was talking to him, and it's the first time Rimrock's been to state since 2008, and he was kind of asking around, and he said from what he kind of heard, it's like the 3rd time in school history that Rimrock is at state. And he said, we've been the league doormat for so long. 4 years ago, they went winless. They were 0-19. And then, they won like 2 games, and then they won like 7. And so the turnaround in 4 years at Rimrock has been really fun to watch.
And before the season, Brandon, we were talking about it being Victory Charter's league, like, Victory Charter. And then all of a sudden they're not even here. It's Rimrock. They came through and blew through the season. Yeah. So congrats to Rimrock for getting there. That's got to be fun for those folks.
For sure. And Coach Hall also said, we want to represent District 3. District 3 historically has not done well at state. And he said, we're tired of the White Pine League. We're tired of those guys up north winning everything all the time. So that's going to be interesting for sure. Let's take a look at our 1A D1 players to watch real quick here. Again, this is just a starting point, not an exhaustive list by any means. Cabin Mercer from Kamiah. Cubs fans will recognize the Mercer name immediately. Cabin is the youngest son of Jeff Mercer. The Mercer family, Fred Mercer was the longtime coach, legendary coach there. They were all great players. Cabin Mercer is the last Mercer male to come through the school, this basketball family that's just been so awesome for, 25 plus years. He's the last one, unless Kevin or, his brother decide to come back in 25, 30 years and have their kid also attend Kamiah. So that's a storyline to keep an eye on. Gray Gibbs from Grace. He's got some size and some athletic ability. It was hard to pick one from Lapway. We chose Titus Year out. He's the senior. He's going to play for the Idaho Vandals next year, and he expects to be in the mix right away for the Vandals. No red shirt, nothing like that. We talked about Dallin Criddle from Liberty Charter, Clay Silva from Lighthouse Christian, first Lion in school history to be selected for the Idaho All-State All-Star game coming up the week after state. Will Casebolt from Logos. He was the hero for the Knights. He hit the game-winning 3 with 4 seconds left to beat Lakeside in that play-in game. Peyton Beck from Oakley. Really cool story there. His dad is the coach, Cody Beck. Peyton, of course, was the starting quarterback on Oakley's state championship football team this fall. He was diagnosed with diabetes at the start of the football season. And so he and his family have kind of been learning how to manage diabetes while also playing two sports at a very high level. And Gus Black from Rimrock, 6'3", good forward. He's a solid player as well. So that's just a sampling of the players that are going to be on display. It's easy to get lost up in the Lapway stuff because it's not just Titus Year Out. It's Case Wynot. It's Terrell Ellenwood Jones. It's AJ Ellenwood. It's Mason Brown. It's Elias Year Out. It's all of these tremendous talented players, but there are good players from every school here, Logan.
Yeah, and we didn't even hit really on that Oakley squad much at all. But man, they have athletes too that, my goodness, you just never know when those guys get on the court, right? You've got Peyton Beck, Isaac Cranny. You just never know. Like, those are great football names for Oakley. They are champions in football. We'll see how that can translate over to the basketball court if they meet Lapway in the second round, or how they'll be able to handle that first round matchup that they have. But, there's just a lot of good players in this tournament that, unfortunately might get overshadowed by just how good Lapway is.
Yeah, and we just saw a comment here from Jeremiah. Why not? Titus Year Out will hit 2,000 career points at state. Talking to Coach Eastman this week, he said Titus, his scoring has actually gone down with each subsequent year. He led the state in scoring as a sophomore. Ironically enough, Case Why Not, a sophomore on this year's Lapway team, leads the state in scoring, right around 26 points per game. But Titus, as he got older and started to develop more of those point guard skills and became a better distributor of the basketball, his scoring went down to the success of the team, right? They won the state title last year, brought everybody back this year, and man, they look so good.
They do.
Overall. So it's going to be a fun tournament though, Logan. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to the Lapway fans were awesome during the girls state basketball tournament. Of course, the Lapway girls won state, and I'm looking forward to seeing.
I think the Lapway fans just have hotels on retainer here. They check out and they just book next year, right? Somebody confirm that with me. I think that's what they do. They just say, we'll be back next year. Put us down. Same 3 days here. We expect to be back.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun though. Logan Green, our last comment comes from Scott Burton. Congrats on the new baby, Logan.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
Yeah,
it's been a fun couple weeks.
Yeah, for sure. So that is it for our 1A D1 preview. We have gone along. All those D2 fans that are still hanging out with us, thank you. Sorry we're running long. Everybody just wants to break down hoops, so it's the most exciting time of the year.
It's Paul's fault.
It really is. Time. Yeah, Paul got us way behind schedule. So Logan, thank you for breaking down this 1A D1 tournament for us. We appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. We'll see you on Thursday.
All right, sounds good. Okay, we're going to take one last break and wrap it up with the 1A D2 ranks with Gary Jones. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back right after this break. You're watching the 2022 IdahoSports.com State Basketball Preview Special.
If you're like me, you'll love the outdoors. There's adventures to have and new paths to explore. That's why you need to be focused and engaged when you're on the road. You have more footprints to leave and more trails to take. When it comes to distracted driving, well, that's just not going to happen on my Squatch. Don't let it happen on yours either. Wait a minute, what do you mean by outdoors?
All right, welcome back to our state preview special boys basketball edition on IdahoSports.com. Our last stop of the night. We check in with Gary Jones, broadcasting the 1A D2 boys state basketball tournament for IdahoSports.com. Thanks for hanging out with us on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. While you're hanging out, hearing us break down the 1A D2 field, go ahead and hit that like button. That's going to help us in terms of the social media algorithms that nobody understands. But we want to be at the top of everybody's news feed. So hit that like button and share this video as well with all your family and friends if they couldn't be here live tonight. Gary, how you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy.
Awesome. Hey, also, all of our fans that are watching 1A D2 breakdown, give us a comment if you want us to talk about a certain team, a certain player. If you want a shout out, if you want us to answer a question, drop us a comment and we'll throw it up on the screen. We got a couple of spillover from the 1A D1, Gary. Jalisco Miles from Lapway. We going back to back. That's Lapway. It would actually be 3 in a row. For lap. No, back to back. You're right. Third place 2 years ago, state champs last year. Also, we've got Scott Burton with the obligatory "Go Rams" comment for you, Gary. You are LA Rams fans.
He saw my hat, obviously. By the way, speaking of hats, I want to ask Scott, where do I get one of those chicken hats? Because I like it.
Yeah, you'll have to ask him when you see him in person over there at State. So all you 1A D2 fans, drop us a comment. We'll throw it up on the screen as we break down the 1A D2 bracket. I'm just going to throw the bracket up on the screen, Gary, and let's just start at the top and the number 1 overall seed, Camas County. So Scott Burton and I on our Magic Valley Prepcast that we do each week, where we talk about all the teams in District 4, we've kind of dubbed it the year of the musher. You know, they got into the football playoffs and had that huge upset over North Gem in the opening round. Their girls basketball team was really good. Obviously, the top boys team in 1AD2, the year of the musher. What do you think, Gary?
Well, I very well could be. They are the number 1 seed. This is the first time they've been to state since 2005, and they have won state championship way back when I was at Chico State. And let me tell you, that was a long time ago, 1974. If I look at the girls bracket, when we did I did the 1AD2 girls, and it was pretty obvious that Rockland and Council were the 2 best teams, and they ended up in the title game. And of course, Rockland won. But this one, when I looked at it and started studying it, this isn't like the girls at all. This one's wide open. There's a lot of teams with good records. Camas County's 20-3, North Gem 17-5, Council 18-4, Rockland's 20-3, Cary's 19-6. And that's not discounting the other teams. They have a few more losses, but a sleeper could win this thing. So I really think this 1AD2 is wide open right now for anybody to take all the marbles at the end of the tournament.
Well, I think it speaks to how tough that District 4 was this year, that Camas County is the 1 and Cary is the 2 seed. Gary, Cary almost didn't even make it to state. They had to play Sun Valley Community School, the Cutthroats, in the 2nd and 3rd place game at districts. And they trailed very late in that game. It went to overtime. They got a shot basically as time expired. And boy, Coach Simpson for Cary just seems to get the Panthers to state every single year. You can bank.
Yeah. What is Cary? They've been to state. It's 17 times in a row. And that's more than any division in Idaho. Just think about that. 17 years in a row they have been to state. That it's mind-boggling. It's just incredible. I wanted to mention too the seeding. I did a little homework on the seeding because I'm so thankful the IHSA finally seeded it. I know it's got some bugs, but it's okay. Let's just look at the girls. What happened? 3 number 1 seeds won: Sugar, Lapway, and Rockland. 2 number 2 seeds won: Timberline, Burley, and Coe Valley won as the number 3 seed. So when you see the top heavy of 1, 2, and 3 seeds winning, it means they're doing something right. Right?
Yeah, I'd agree. Now we'll see if that pans out on the boys' side as well. And I think for the most part, you're right, especially with the semifinals. I think the best teams were getting to the semifinals at least. And so that really worked. When you look at
the
this,
other thing I studied, Brandon, was what was the lowest seed that made it into state? And throughout all the girls, it was the number 11 seed. But there's a new record set, and they'll be set a lot in this seeding because this is the first year they've done it. Cascade has gotten to state. They were the 17th seed in max prep, and yet here they are, one of the final 8. It just goes to show you never give up. When it gets to district in Idaho, they wash the slate clean. You could be undefeated in league and not win in district, and you're not here. So, I don't count anybody out when I get to these big games.
Yeah, we saw Cascade go into districts as the number 4 seed, and they knocked out number 2 Garden Valley and number 3 Horseshoe Bend in back-to-back basically loser-out games to punch their ticket. And you're right, now they're the number 8 seed, tall order ahead of them. Council won the league. They're the number 5 seed. They have to play North Gem, a team that was one of the few to give Rockland a test this year. Rockland down there at the number 3 seed. I think there's 5 or 6 teams that could all get to the title, and any one of them could win it. I think this thing's kind of wide open, Gary, like you were saying.
Yeah, and I would say the team that's the hottest coming in is Council. They've won 14 games in a row, but I think they got a real tough draw in North Gem because North Gem's an excellent team. They've got a good record, so you can get cooled off in a hurry when your opponent plays well. The other thing I looked at was Rockland is averaging, giving up their opponents 28.4 points per game. So Rockland really has the best defense, team defense in the 182 tournament. And the best offense goes to Camas. They're averaging 61.4 points a game. That's pretty good for varsity to average 61. So, they had some games probably in the 70s or 80s. And so if defense wins championships, look out for the Rockland Bulldogs. If offense wins at this time, look out for Camas.
Well, Rockland's got some guys that can elevate. You may be calling a dunk or two when Rockland plays. The Matthews brothers, Teague and Wes, they had a highlight that we shared on social media back in January. They threw up an alley-oop. One brother threw it up to the other, and they slammed it down against Clark County from DuBois. It was pretty fun to watch.
So they probably do that in their driveway all the time.
You're right. They probably practice that all the time for sure. So we're getting some comments in here. Scott Burton, you were asking where he got that chicken hat from. He got it in Hawaii. So, I mean, if you want to take us to Hawaii, Gary, we'll help you find it.
Yeah, no wonder it looks so. All I have to do is go to Hawaii. The problem is I don't fly, so I'm going to take the boat.
There you go. Glenn Jones says, go Lumberjacks, Council Lumberjacks. My oldest son was born in Council. Go Council. And Ryan West says, Council is the sleeper. And wow, what do you think here, Gary? He's got Timberline of Weippe over Carey in the opening round. What do you think?
Well, you know what? When it comes to the big games, anything can happen. What I always look at also, and I'll mention this, who has the most seniors? Because I've always believed, generally speaking, this is absolutely generally speaking, seniors beat juniors, juniors beat sophomores, and sophomores beat freshmen. The team with the most seniors in this tournament is North Gen. They have 5 seniors. Rockland and Carey have 3. And the youngest teams, by the way, would be Council and Kendrick. They only have 1 senior. So you can look for them to be back here next year. But, it's hard to predict. And you guys that all predict and want to pick winners, God bless you, but I can't do it because I don't know. I'm like Kirk Herbstreit on ESPN. I don't want to pick a team I'm announcing because, I don't want the fans to give me a hard time. However, I would say that Scott Burton should have picked Jerome. He has to because he teaches and he's an AD at Jerome. He has to pick Jerome. He doesn't want to because my problem is if Jerome wins this thing, and Scott Burton better call in sick on Monday and not come to school. That's all I can say. Because if New Plymouth was in here, that's where I taught for 32 years, I would pick him. And they can call me a homer, but who doesn't root for their home team? That's what sports is all about. That's why I want to pick.
He probably didn't want to jinx him. And you know what, Gary? I would say that chicken hat is appropriate for you. You coward. You make no stances on anything. That chicken hat is appropriate.
Paul finally figured it out too. He stopped picking because he got, a bunch of fans booing him and talking to him during the game. So, yeah, I don't know. I just look, if I was going to pick somebody, I didn't want to tell this in the girls. I'd pick Council. You know why? My wife graduated from Council, and I lived in Council for a while. And I lived in the same town with Glenn when he had his son, Zach. I'd pick Council because it's my wife's alma mater. I got to keep the wife happy. So that's why I didn't even want anybody to know in the girls. And you can know now in the boys. Am I kind of rooting for Council? Sure. But you won't know it in my play-by-play. I will get excited for every good play I see.
Yes, and I think that's true across the board for all the IdahoSports.com broadcasters. That's a good question, though. Is it better to not pick any team or to be a homer and pick the school you are from? We will revisit that topic at a later time because we need to take a look at Timberline with the upset over Carey possibly could happen. They had to win a play-in game against the Wampus Cats from Clark Fork just to get to state, but I think they've got potential because Kendrick, I think, is a team a lot of people are sleeping on. You mentioned only 1 senior, and everybody said the same thing during football season, Gary. Kendrick's too young. They're a year away. Well, guess what? They won it. They won state football over a Carey team that was loaded with seniors. So, see,
and that's important. Because they already know what it's like to play in big games. I know the sport's different, but you get nervous, I mean, I'm an avid golfer. I could make 1 million 3-foot putts in a row, but put it at a 3-foot putt to win a club championship. You can't practice that. You can practice free throws all day long and make them, but you cannot practice state tournament free throws because your body is and your mind is in a different frame. When it gets nervous time, who can handle the pressure the best? That's why seniors are better than juniors and juniors are better than sophomores, et cetera. But that doesn't necessarily ring true. There could be a sophomore as cool as the other side of the pillow that goes out there and has a great game.
For sure. We got a couple more comments trickling in here, Ryan. LOL, you guys are awesome. I'm going to chalk that up to Gary. That's all Gary there. And Amber and Lindsey Green want to know about Cascade. They come in as the number 8 seed. We talked about them a little bit, Gary, but really all that matters is that you're playing your best basketball at the right time of year. Now, Camas County right away is a tough way to open, but the one thing that Cascade may have in its favor is the ability to run with Camas County. You mentioned Camas County's offense was really good, but they've gotten into some shootouts this year, and that's gotten them into trouble a couple of times. So if Cascade can hang and run the floor with Camas County, I think they've got a chance.
Well, Cascade too has a player, Tyler Thurston, who's averaging 18.1 points per game. Camas, though, the thing about them, they have one average. Let's see, Brecken Clark is averaging 16, Tristan Smith 9.4, Troy Smith 9.3, Emma Payton 8.3, or Palin, excuse me. And then Kramer, I think I can't read my own handwriting, 12.2. Yeah. They have got basically 5 people right at that double figure average. Just a couple of them are at 8 or 9. Whereas with Cascade, they drop off. After Thurston at 18, they go down to Olson with 10.6.
Yeah,
so
balance, right?
If Cascade's going to do it, Thurston has to have a great game.
And that can happen sometimes. I said Rusty Kramer earlier. Dawson Kramer is from Camas. Rusty Kramer was the football coach. I got my Kramers mixed up there. Hey, before we duck out, let's take a look at our 1A D2 players to watch. We picked one player from each school that the fans should keep an eye on. And again, not a comprehensive list, just a starting point. There were lots of good players. Multiple players from multiple teams could be on here, but we picked one from each school. We mentioned Brecken Clark from Camas County. He crossed 1,000 career points earlier this year for the Mushers. Connor Simpson for Cary, probably going to be the smallest guy on the floor in terms of height pretty consistently, but man, he can shoot. You mentioned Tyler Thurston from Cascade. Wyatt Vining, great player for Council, good lead guard. Jagger Hewitt of Kendrick is their leading scorer. Bridger Hatch of North Gem, solid all-around athlete. Teague Matthews from Rockland, electrifying athlete. And Jaron Christofferson from Timberline, who can hold his own down low if need be. It's a pretty good list, Gary. Who stands out to you?
You know what? To be honest with you, they all stand out because I'm impressed. I wasn't a very good basketball player in high school. I would have been cut at the A1, D2 level. So when you can go in and average these things, I'll tell you one thing about Cary, though. You put up Connor Simpson. He's got a teammate that's averaging more than any other player. Now, look, I didn't get Rockland or Timberline's stats. I got Kendrick, but I'm old school, and I accidentally deleted it. And Coach Silflo has just sent him back to me while the show was on. So I apologize, Coach, and I'll get over into those stats. But the stat that stands out of everybody is the guy averaging the most points, almost 20 points a game. He's 19, is Carson Perk for Cary.
Yeah.
So you list Connor Simpson as one of the best players. You put that with a guy that's averaging nearly 20, and you can see why Cary, has a good chance to win this thing.
Yeah, Carson Perks was at Richfield actually the first 2 years and moved to Cary with his family over the summer. And so he was the player of the year in that conference for Richfield last year, and now is at Cary. So you are absolutely right. Cascade comment here. Olson's steamy, can get hot and surprise from Amber and Lindsey Green. And streaky. Okay, so streaky. I think they meant streaky instead of steamy. So
now I'll tell you, the 3 hungriest teams in the state are the 3 teams that have never won. Cascade has never won, Rockland has never won, and Council's never won. When you've been playing boys basketball in Idaho since a long, long time ago, since the teens, man, to not ever win, that's a long time without a victory. So I know the students from those 3 schools are going to do everything they can to try to win. They are going to dive for every loose ball, go after every rebound. So can an inexperienced team that's never won before win? Absolutely. They can get the monkey off their back, and one of those teams might do it. And if Rockland does it, they'll have the rare repeat. I've done all kinds of records, and I sent them to you guys. most coaches with the most wins. But what I need is research this next off season is how many teams have won both the boys and girls state. I know Sugar Salem's done it. I know Firth has done it. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Lapway's done it, and they certainly can do it this year if the boys win. I'm betting Lapway's done it. But talk about, man, some teams die to win one. And, some towns just want that first display. How about a town like Rothland that could sweep it? Lapway can sweep it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Travis says this is the year of the musher. We will wait and see, but we do know it's going to be a really fun state basketball tournament, Gary, and we are looking forward to all of your play-by-play coverage on IdahoSports.com for all of the 2A action.
Brandon, if I can just add one more thing.
Yes, go for it.
Mushers has to be one of the coolest nicknames in Idaho. Whenever I see a new high school in Idaho open up and they pick a name that's already been used, they like Rocky Mountain took the Grizzlies. There's already 6 or 7 Grizzlies. I really dislike that. If you have a chance to build a new school, pick a unique mascot like the Riverhawks did with the Twin Falls School. So Mushers is so cool. I don't know how many teams in the United States can call themselves the Mushers, but that's like, I'm a mascot guy. I always have been. I love mascots dressing up when they go to the tournament. I think Mushers is one of my favorite mascots in the entire state of Idaho.
Definitely. All right, Gary, before we get out of here, I have one last question for you. It's not really a true Gary Jones appearance unless you tell us about the 1994 New Plymouth State Baseball Championship.
Wow. If you'd have told me baseball was my favorite sport, it always has been, and golf. If you'd have told me that I was going to win a state championship, I told you were crazy. I didn't doubt myself as a coach. I just never felt like I was that lucky. Nobody pulls my name out of the sweepstakes hat. And I got dealt. I worked my butt off to be a coach. It took us my second year. I won one game. We were at the bottom of the league when I took over the team, and I coached for 13 years. I won in my 11th year, and that day is the most special day of my life. When the final out was recorded, I cried like a baby when my wife hugged me, and then when I hugged Chris Baum, we were both crying in each other's arms. I would have never envisioned my teaching career be that I'm going to cry in another student's arms, and they're going to be tears of joy. They're not going to be tears of sadness. It was the most incredible win of my life. Every time I run into one of those students that played for me, I just thank them for giving not just the town a state championship, but me. I actually can't believe I can say Gary Jones won a state title. To me, it's undescribable. I don't know how to describe it. I really don't. But it was, as much as I wanted my Rammies to win, because they hadn't won in my lifetime from LA, my favorite championship of all time, Lakers, Dodgers, Rams, anybody, was that championship I won in baseball. We won. I don't want to say we won. And that's still the happiest day of my life, even happier than the day I was married, because I was really nervous that day. And I was really nervous in that state championship game too, because I was playing Homedale, and I had beaten them 3 times, twice in league, once in district championship. So to beat them, I kept thinking, I didn't sleep the night before in my little hotel room, because I was thinking if I lose, I'll lose 1 out of 4 games, and it's for all the marbles. So, and I beat Dan Tristan, who was a fabulous coach. I feel very, very fortunate and honored to have done that. And I didn't need 2. I didn't need 3. I retired 2 years later because I wanted to get a handicap lower than my wife, and still working on that. But it's really the most cherished day of my entire life.
Which we bring it back full circle here to say that Gary knows what he's talking about when he's on the air broadcasting. He's been coaching a long time, and he has the credentials to back it up. So hopefully those championship moments happen for some teams this weekend. Like you said, maybe a school that hasn't broken through yet gets that first state title. It's going to be a lot of fun. Gary, thank you for hanging out with us to break down this 1A D2 bracket. Thank you to everybody who hung out here. Maybe you sat through the whole nearly 2-hour marathon. That's awesome. Maybe you were just here for the 1A D2. Maybe you were popping in and out. We will have the replay of this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, Twitter account as well. It'll be easier for more eyeballs to see it. If you like this video before you duck out for the night, one last thing we're going to ask you, like this video and share it with everybody you know, so we can get as many people these nuggets of information as possible. And it's been a lot of fun tonight. Gary, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
You know, Brandon, it's an honor and a privilege to be an announcer for IdahoSports.com. I don't take it, I don't take it for granted. I'm blessed. In fact, don't tell Paul Kingsbury, but I'd even do this job for free.
Okay.
Please, Paul's listening. I'm lying, Paul, but don't tell him if he wasn't listening.
I heard that. On record.
We'll keep that under the chicken hat. We'll just keep that to ourselves, Gary. All right. Big thanks to everybody for hanging out with us live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account as well. Enjoy the competition, everybody. And don't forget, IdahoSports.com will have live audio coverage of every single game. But it's not just that. We're going to have photographers at all of the state venues. We're going to have social media, Instagram, Twitter, with updates of all the games throughout. We're going to have recaps each night of all the state tournament games. We don't just park inside the Idaho Center and cover the big schools. We are out at every high school, making sure every single school, all the way down to 1AD2, gets the coverage they deserve. We don't just park it in the Idaho Center. We're everywhere, and we've got you covered at IdahoSports.com. So really, you just got to check there each and every day at state for all the info, all the latest up-to-date stuff. So, all right. Thank you for tuning in. Yes, thank you, Gary. Thank you to everyone who tuned into this live preview special. We will see you next time on IdahoSports.com. Enjoy the state tournaments, everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun.